Hello dear friends, I'm Cory and welcome to this new Cory Paints video. Today I will show you my next step on making my Sons of Behemat army. But there is a problem with this army, and it is that we only have 2 kits if we want to make this army totally of 100% GW miniatures. And it is kind of boring to me because the Man Crusher Gargants and the Mega Gargants all have the same poses basically. Yeah, we can change heads, weapons and stuff like that, but the poses are all the same. They just look like clones with different clothes on them. So I am wandering around the internet looking for alternatives, and today I'm gonna show you one of those alternatives, which is the Magágg Wild Oghurüc Ruad. Cool. Which is manufactured by Mierce Miniatures, and this is not the only giant that they have on their website. There are also different kind of giants, even more bigger than this one. But this one really got my attention because of the pose and the looks that he has, so I decided to buy it and paint it. Yes, buy it. This is not a sponsored video, as always. So let's go to the hobby table so that I can show you how I painted the Magágg from Mierce Miniatures. Let's start with the biggest part, the skin of the giant. After I've primed the model, I've started to airbrush all the skin parts with a thinned down tan flash from Pro Acryl. Then I've grabbed my brush and I started to paint the leather part of the model. For this step I've used the color Mahogany from Pro Acryl. And now the giant boulder strapped on its back and a rock on his left hand with some Mechanicus Standard Grey from Citadel. Then I decided to focus on the part that I hate the most, the rope. For this I've used some Zandri dust. I've also painted the horns on his head with this color. The hair and the fur on the back of his legs were painted with the color Stormvermin fur. And Dawnstone for the hooves. I've tried to use a lot of grey for all these parts, but in different shades, just to create a little variation. Then I focused on the little detail starting from the tongue and the mouth. For this I've used the color Khorne red. For the nails and the teeth, I've used the color Screaming Skull. For the bag on the side of the model, I have chosen a brighter shade of brownish leather. For the job, I've used the color Steel Legion Drab. And the two shields on the other side were painted respectively with the colors Mephiston Red and the Fang. At this point it was time to prepare the metal parts. I started with all the metallic part with the color matte black from Army Painter. This way it would be easy to paint a dark shade of iron as I planned. Then I base coated the previously black painted part with Leadbelcher. And the last base coat was applied to the eye. For this, my color of choice was Averland Sunset. Now the fun part. When I have to paint a large portion of skin, I always pre-shade all the crannies with a super thin down mix of roughly 5 part Cadian Fleshtone and 1 part Mephiston Red. Then I start to actually shade the skin by mixing in equal parts some Reikland Fleshshade with some thinner, like water or Lahmian medium. Then I'd use some Seraphim Sepia to shade all the bones bits, in this case the horns, the nails and the teeth. Then I've painted the rocks, the rope, the fur and all the leather part with the color Agrax Earthshade. Then I've used some Drakenhof Nightshade for the blue shield, and for the red shield and the tongue, I've used a little bit of Carroburg Crimson. For the final shade, I've used the color Nuln Oil for the metallic part and the hooves. Now the layering. Starting from the skin, I have heavily thinned down some Cadian Fleshtone and layer it on all the skin. For the hair and the fur, I've mixed the color Stormvermin fur with the Zandri dust in equal parts, and I lightly dry brushed them. Then I kept dry brushing, and the next step was to dry brush the rock with the color Dawnstone. For the hooves, I've used some Flayed 1 flesh. And for the last dry brushing, I used Tyrant skull on the horns. The rope was next, and for that I've mixed a little bit of Screaming Skull with some Zandri dust. With this mixture, I painted all the raised edge of the rope around the body of the giant. After that, I have layered all the previously washed part, being careful not to cover the shade on the darkest recesses. At this point, I wanted to create a nice color gradation on the horns, so I've applied in sequence 3 different shades from the Army Painter, starting from the light tone, then going to the soft tone, concluding with the strong tone, pushing me more and more on the base of the horns. For the metal parts, since I wanted to obtain a nice dark metal, I've used the color Steel from Darkstar. And as the final step, I start edge highlighting the model. Starting from the skin, I'd use the Kislev flesh paint. For the leather loincloth, I've used the color Gorfor Brown. For the eye, I've painted a little dot of golden yellow from Procreal to make it brighter and more alive. Then, as a final touch, I've drawn a thin line in the center of the eye to simulate the pupil, and washed everything with a tiny bit of Kazandora yellow. At the last moment, I decided that I wanted his skin to be a little bit darker, so I re-washed it with a very thin down mix of Reikland Fleshshade and Lahmian Medium. Last thing to do was weathering the metallics, and for this model I've used the weathering liquid pigments Rust from Greenstuff World. And after painting the base and varnishing the model, the Mierce Miniature Giant was completed. And this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for staying with me till now, guys. If you want to buy this miniature, I will leave the link down in the description. You will also find the link to my Instagram if you want to look all the miniatures that I paint weekly. Also, leave a like, comment down below if you like this video and these miniatures and the way that I painted it. And also, subscribe if you want to see more videos. I do tutorials, how to paint, unboxing, review, all kind of different stuff. And so, I am Cory. Hope to see you the next time.